Hello everybody, welcome to the patch 13.9 rundown for amateur play. My name is Quinn. Today I'll be using my system of predictive criteria to help me assess the probable impact of this patch on amateur play. Now remember, as usual, the expected impact of most of these changes is very little, even if we observe a win rate difference in solo queue. We're mainly talking about whether your pick conditions need to change, whether your pools need to change, and remember, amateur players should be running with small pools, especially in Platinum and below, right? So that's kind of the approach that we're taking. This is going to be a very, very small patch. We're very likely not going to see a lot of huge impact outside of like maybe the Nico midscope. But yeah, I'm gonna try to speedrun it. We're not gonna be here long. We'll have a chance to talk to you guys like about this patch, about some of the item updates coming out later, and then I am gone, you know, because I stayed up literally all night working on my Nico video to get it out on time, like, because I screwed everything up, guys. I'm not gonna lie. I screwed everything up, and I had to process my emotions from losing in semis while also working on that video. You know, it was a whole thing. But Jackie, it's great to see you. Sonic, it's great to see you. I'm glad to hear you won with Volley Bear, Jackie. It's really good. Do we have any like big points here? Anything that we need to start with before we get into it? Don't think so. I should actually link the Nico midscope or get ready to, Yeah, so I haven't updated the video command, but this is the Nico video, and I'm pretty happy with it, so. Alright, so yeah, let's start with the champion update that, to my knowledge, is most likely to have actual impact on coordinated play, right? Which is the Nico midscope. Now, I'm not going to go in depth on everything here, because, again, I just released the Nico midscope video. We were trying a offshoot of the day one format, and I think it went pretty well. The TLDR of this is that Nico's damage is lower in the late game, but she's not got as much of a restrictive niche. Her mid-game transition isn't as extreme. She doesn't go immediately from aggressive lane bully to defensive bait and punish champion with no in-between. She's more of a playmaker with the ultimate changes with the expanded passive. The role that benefits the most from the expanded passive is support. All off-meta Nico builds still exist if that's what you enjoyed, and Nico Jungle is now a legitimate pick. I genuinely think the clear is great, the skirmishing is great, you know, 2v2, ganks, objective DPS, like, the only concern is, like, playing against hyper invade sort of picks like that, but that's not an unusual weakness for an actual jungler to have. Is she going to be top tier in any role? Doubtful. The number one thing, people are going to try to pick Nico in your amateur games. They're going to try to deceive you primarily with the transform into a minion and run down the lane trick. You will have to start counting minions. If she ends up in your games, treat her like a stealth champion, where, you know, like if a Twitch is on the enemy team, if an Evelyn is on the team, you and your team have to spend a lot more attention, like coordinating. You kind of have to slow down. She will have a warp factor. So just be ready to learn how to play around that, right? Yeah, if you're a jungler and you really love mage junglers and you want to experiment with adding her to your pool, by all means. If you're a support player and you think this type of champion would be useful because you are an aggressive early game mage with some playmaking potential and some great defensive your AD carry as well, by all means, like, add Nico to your pool. We're just going to have to go through a learning process here. I'm not going to tell you whether you should play her or should not play her. My expectation is good, viable champion. But, like, at the end of the day, mid lane Nico in particular is still Nico. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be dramatically stronger in at least that role. That's kind of my perception of it. It will be stronger, though. Like, the reliability of the ultimate matters a lot. Like, a lot. Kind of like Ahri-ish sort of thing, but with more early damage. Okay, Aatrox. Yeah, we haven't seen Aatrox in a while, and it makes sense. He's definitely not the best user of Cleaver. The systems don't support him very well, and he'd received a ton of direct nerfs before they changed the systems. So, I mean, personally, I really don't think he's that bad in amateur. I really don't. If you're just extremely comfortable in Aatrox, you know, there are builds that made him work. You know, people were going Cleaver IVG anyway. The Eclipse build still did work, right? It was just harder to execute on and higher risk. So we're getting some movement speed back on World Ender, which, remember, that was one of the big, most impactful changes from Aatrox that made it harder for him to team fight and kind of shifted him back towards more of an aggro champion. So yeah, we don't have like many good predictors on movement speed in particular, but just remembering historically what this did to him. Even 10% at rank 1 too, like that is compelling for Aatrox's strength. And then bonus physical damage now scales up to 12% of target's max health. Hang on a minute. That is an exact rollback of most of 13.1. All of the R, every R change was reverted, and then the late passive changes. It's not at 5% at level 1 like it used to be, but it does now go back up to 12. And give me a moment on 13.1. Please tell me this is going on the right screen. Actually, I'm not taking the risk. I don't like putting things on my desktop when I didn't decide to put them there, I want my OneNote on my second monitor. Yeah, so on 13.1, this was the type of nerf where we saw, okay, nerf to multiple different aspects of a champion, unrelated, all power impacted. It does mean those all, like, combine to push him down in the tier list. Like, that at that time, I expected that he was just no longer meta-defining, but that skilled Aatrox players will still find success. I then added a note later to say, like, yes, Aatrox returned to his previous identity of, like, peaking around 15 to 25 minutes. And then he got... Well, he got some buffs. Cool, okay. So what do we want to say about this, then? So if we are looking at a partial rollback of the nerf that, by our notes and our measures, contributed the most to removing him from the meta, ignoring, of course, the systemic itemization changes that Aatrox did not thoroughly enjoy. This is really compelling for his consistency and reliability. Movement speed on a champion that's very dependent on spacing properly is super, super good. So what does that mean for us? Well, I now have a deeper understanding of, like, champ pool cycling for competitive play. I now realize that competitive players should have, like, their small pools, but everything that they used to play is always kind of simmering under there, and you can so easily, like, reintroduce that, and if you're banned out too heavily, you can take one of those old picks. I just got absolutely destroyed in the series last night because I'm too new to the role that I'm playing right now and don't have a pool that I used to play underneath, and it mattered a lot in draft. So with that understanding, with the understanding that a lot of top laners, like, used to play Aatrox and he's ready to be reintroduced to their pools if they wanted to, I would imagine that he looks like a more compelling pick as long as you can find itemization that, like, really works out for him. I wouldn't be surprised if you could find, like, an Eclipse Cleaver Sterix-ish sort of core, because even though Aatrox is not the optimal Cleaver user, the item is just so strong. Yeah, I would predict that he is a more compelling pick. I would struggle to view him as meta-defining, but if you thoroughly enjoy Aatrox and really miss playing him, by all means, you can reintroduce him to your pool. Amumu, the flat magic damage per second is now being flattened across all ranks, so we're getting the rank 3 value immediately. And the percent max health damage per second is going up to 2%. Now, this was a nerf that they hit him with at some point, right? Yeah, this is just completely rolling back some changes to Amumu. So I suppose they felt that they over-nerfed him when they nerfed him and Demonic Embrace at the same time. Ease of execution, higher win rate, he's fallen off, completely reasonable support. Now, W tends to be the second max to my knowledge in jungle, right? Are we first maxing E? Give me a moment. I should know this. I was playing Amumu a little bit at one point. Oh my freaking god. Yeah. Okay, so Amumu's getting immediately quite a lot more flat damage per second, like for clear speed, for that impacts clear health, which is not a factor that matters at platinum and below, but matters much higher, right? Um, he's getting the level. Yeah, he's getting the level 10 value of this spell at level 1 now, which is a significant increase to his overall damage, right? Um, Getting a revert of a nerf that was applied because he was dominant and meta. Um, so we would usually look at this and say, aha, DPS change, but it's not a DPS change to a DPS champ. I'm trying to figure out how to work with these numbers, right? We don't see an increase in the... Actually, what did I say? What did I say before? 13.4? Loss of 0.8% max HP DPS. Really? On 13.4. Per tick. Went from 1 to 0.8. And it ticks... Yeah, every half second. Wait, so what the hell did I write? That's not a 0.8% max HP DPS loss. That's a 0.4. I have to update that. Okay. Look, this is not within our threshold of a percent max health DPS change that we consider like super meaningful. But now that I'm looking at this, right, this mattered a lot for Amumu previously. The demonic nerfs ended up... I don't think they mattered as much as the clear speed cap nerfs mattered. I'm beginning to think one of my predictors might be a little bit off, right? Because my predictor says, cool, this is just nice, but historical Amumu changes have said these matter a lot. Like, so this contributed to Amumu being viable in top-level competitive, which is usually not the case. I think we can kind of resolve this, though, by saying this is actually just kind of absurd to have in terms of clear speed, which does impact clear health, and clear health is conventionally one of Amumu's greatest weaknesses. And so I will go out on a limb and say I need to review my predictors a little bit and try to refine them a little bit with the case of Amumu. And I would expect him, you know, on a hunch to actually be marginally stronger. And I apologize, but I don't know how to assess whether he needs to come back into our pool as well. We'll have to get some practical testing and see if he just feels broken again. Okay. Belveth is getting a monster damage modification onto her Q, increased by 20%, which, remember, over the course of... That's pretty much times 4 over the course of one camp, because she gets 4 casts of these. And in exchange, she's losing 0.2 AD growth. Now, this is the kind of number where we'd look at that and say, haha, like DPS change on a DPS champion, it's so negligible. This should meaningfully impact clear speed a lot. I didn't actually know that Belveth had a very unhealthy clear. The last time I seriously checked in with Belveth was like on release, when I actually discovered the lifesteal build before LS did, which like was a really huge ego boost, right? But then I got lazy with like keeping track of her. I've been interested in playing her lately. So I was not aware that her clear was like super unhealthy at the moment. And if it is, like, you know, clear health can matter in platinum and below, but usually that's not a very big factor. Clear health matters a lot in like diamond masters, like levels higher than that, where people are actually starting to learn how to punish those. So, you know, I'd imagine that even though this will do so much for her clear power and probably introduce like an extra option or two, ultimately that doesn't create new pick conditions for Belveth in lower levels of play, just given what we understand about it. And if you already play Bel'Veth, you'll keep playing Bel'Veth. If you don't play Bel'Veth, this won't make you start playing Bel'Veth. So she's going to be, like, most likely decently stronger in theoretical levels of play. But for us in amateur, we don't really care. Jinx. Again, when we see its AD growth stat like this, we don't really care too much. DPS change to a DPS champion, doesn't change pick conditions, doesn't change, like, overall performance, impacts win rate in solo queue, and impacts the number at the end of the game, but, like, we're allowed to kind of use that cop-out over and over and over again because it keeps proving to be true, In fact, it's not even really worth assessing Jinx's power with marksman itemization changes coming next patch. So, consider this nothing for right now. We'll check in on her later when the game changes around her. Right. Oh, I forgot they were actually giving Kayle, like, a major set of changes. Wow, okay. So the on-hit AP ratio of E is being decreased. That matters. The passive wave damage is now scaling based on champion level rather than your points in E. Okay, So you can't just hit level 11 and immediately have 35 wave damage. You're going to have 20. That's actually kind of a... Well, it's because the rest of what she's getting is... Oh, yeah, that is an increase in 150 to the range on R until level 16, in which case it's 250. Or the radius, rather. The radius! Do you realize how big that circle's gonna be? Cast time going down to 0.5 seconds so she can start auto-attacking sooner. Kayle no longer lowers her range when casting ult on herself. I didn't even know that was a thing. Invincibility duration is being standardized at 2.5. The time delay until the sword falls is now increased, so it's going to be a little bit longer. You have more chance to get away from it. The magic damage is going down at high levels. The ratio is going down a little bit. That's a lot of changes. Okay, so let's think about this, right? I think at a certain point we have to stop being lazy by saying DPS change to DPS champion Keck W, because, like, we have specific numbers that matter for burst champions, and those are our thresholds, and they're usually pretty solid. But maybe we need to start getting some thresholds here, right? Because we're losing now 15 damage per auto attack, as well as a very, very meaningful ratio on an on, because small amounts of on-hit damage changing matters a lot. Like, that's usually a very good metric. When someone's on-hit goes up by, like, 3 or something, you actually have to look at it and say, oh, wait, that does matter for some reason, because it's just applied so frequently over and over and over again throughout a fight that maybe not 3, maybe 3 is too low a number, but, like, Yuumi giving an on-hit of 10 is actually quite a lot of damage. Sorry, I'm not liking how my hair is looking right now. Well, first of all, obviously, Kayle attacking while invincible is a big boost of power. Kayle having a larger area of effect radius to just dump her spell onto somebody else and still being useful. In terms of combo power, this is outstanding, right? Invincibility duration being slightly higher early is actually quite a big deal. This is a much, much, much better utility spell. It's actually an absurd amount of utility increase. So... But then in exchange, we're losing some magical DPS. AD Kayle I didn't really like at all. In my testing, AD Kayle did the exact same DPS as AP Kayle, except AP Kale's spells were just better. Now maybe we can talk about there being a bit more of a trade-off, especially since, this AP ratio is down, this AP ratio is down. Cast time decrease, which is huge. The invincibility duration now corresponds exactly to when the sword falls, right? Yeah, this is a pretty significant change. I'm just trying to draw on the bits of Kale knowledge that I have, right? So it's like this iteration of Kale will be so much more threatening when she actually gets to endgame. She will be so much stronger at level 16. Right? Like, that's a lot of extra power in this ultimate, like comboing it with your melee champions, just being able to attack in general, like. And so I see that, and then I start to think, well, am I overthinking the impact of these changes? Like, because what's going to happen is at 11, she's not quite as strong in terms of DPS, but maybe that just doesn't matter. Ultimately, this is not harming her at levels 1 through 6. No, but it is. But it is, because Starfire's Spellblade on hit is always active. It's always active, right? So this does actually impact her power like a little bit early. Now it does mean actually right at level 6 she can keep attacking during her ultimate. So that also impacts her power early. Ninika's so much fun. She's one of the most fun champs I've ever played, I'm not gonna lie. I don't think that's asymmetric, Steven. I mean, it makes sense that she's like, baptizes her allies in fire, So I like Kale as a really unique carry who just provides giga utility to her team as well. Right? Like that's part of why she's unstoppable in the late game. Extreme damage, extreme utility. Team fighting into that is basically like playing into a hyper carry who is also an enchanter. And now it's even worse because that hyper carry who is also an enchanter doesn't have to choose whether she wants to be a hyper carry or an enchanter when she presses R. I'm really struggling to like I really think I'm overthinking all of this early game because like it is slightly weaker in terms of raw on hit DPS, but can that truly matter when she's more capable of trading back on her level 6 spike? Can that really matter when she ends up with excessive damage anyway? And in fact, when in endgame, this is more damage. Like, I don't really like looking at endgame Kale and saying, wow, her endgame damage got buffed. Like, because, getting there is always the struggle, but I'm going to have to predict. I have no choice but to predict that I'm going to have to predict that, given the predictors that I have, were the most compelling. Given the predictors that I have, where the most compelling DPS change is like literally just small amounts of on hits matter, and given how tremendous this is, I have to say Kale is a more compelling pick. And most likely that's going to be in the mid lane where it's easier for her to skirmish around her jungler and easy for her to actually make use of her utility early into the game. But, also in top lane, because just being able to trade back more effectively on your 6 spike is kind of nuts. Yeah, no, this champion is quite a lot more compelling, and if the game slows down even further on next patch, as it might if some of those minion changes go through, then we'll have to reassess this again. Kale is more compelling if you like to play her. test her out. Don't immediately just throw her back into your pool because, I'm confident that she's a better champion, but I'm not confident how much better she is. At least in our levels of play down here in, like, low-level amateur, where scaling doesn't get punished nearly as much as it could. Especially, like, IBS scaling doesn't get punished. Platinum kind of can get punished. But, like, you find a good angle to cheat her out, and then you have Kale on your team, So, all right, let's move on. Sion, his health decays faster. This will make it slightly easier to deal with really durable builds, I guess. But yeah. Read the message, it's important to Kale. The intent is to overall buff Kale. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Kale is getting 20 seconds off rank 1, apparently, if these buffs aren't good enough. Oh, yeah, that's kind of... Okay. What's her cooldown right now? 160. I actually didn't even realize it was almost 3 minutes long. Wow. That's a long time. Okay, that's a big deal. Yeah. Well, it also kind of doesn't matter to me right now because I'm trying to assess her now, right? But if that's the next buff, we're going to see repeated buffs, like chaining buffs. Okay, Sion's passive is decaying a little bit faster. I don't think this is what's making Sion super strong, right? Like, sure, he's a bit of a nuisance when he's on Heartsteel builds and stuff, but remember, the buff that actually brought Sion to the forefront was relieving his mana issues and just making him a lot more capable of laning. And so he's still very capable of laning, and he's still just a really solid tank to have. He doesn't always die. Ultimately, I'm pretty sure this mostly impacts the solo queue builds that have a Heartsteel and a Hullbreaker in, like, the same build. And, good. Get that out. But ultimately, I don't think this will change any of the reasons we're picking Sion, really. Like, it's one of those changes you can easily adapt to, so, Swain is getting 5 damage per Q, plus 2% AP. Although that's initial damage, and then the bonus damage per bolt is going up by 3 per rank, like at all ranks, plus 2% AP. So the maximum magic damage is going up by about, like, 17 here. Yeah, like 17-ish, like 220-ish, plus a 10% AP ratio increase if you hit absolutely everything. And now with all the context of our previous changes, I'm really starting to second-guess my DPS criteria, but I'm going to just stick to my guns right now, and we can have a longer conversation about it right now. You know what I'm going to say. DPS buff to a DPS champion. We don't significantly change our pick conditions at all. Talia's R, whenever Talia takes or deals damage, is now just whenever Talia takes damage. So actually, this makes Talia more capable of chasing you in combat with her Weaver's Wall, if you're not able to hit her back right away. So I think it's small quality of life, but it is power impacting to a certain degree, right? My opinion on Talia, I mean, I'm hearing thoughts that some people think Talia is actually quite bad, so it's actually possible that I haven't updated my knowledge in a while. But the last time I had a major opinion on Talia, it was that she wasn't broken, but she was quite good. She was stable. She could learn how to play into virtually any matchup. She's just kind of nice to have on your team in mid lane, at least, right? So, I mean, nothing here that's going to push Talia into OP status. Nothing here that's going to kind of make you add her to your pool or re-add her to your pool, or especially not drop her from your pool because it's a buff. But it's a nice, small power impacting quality of life change, I think. Trundle. Now, this is actually pretty tremendous. So, Trundle disappeared off the face of the planet. Why did he disappear off the face of the planet? Because he's a giant stat stick, and they hit all of his stats. They hit his W cooldown, and that was one of his most important spells. They hit his base attack speed, and that was huge. On the same patch, they hit his subjugate damage. And like, let's just put it this way. If you go look up Trundle matchup stats right now, he is a losing matchup into Sejuani. That shouldn't happen. Like, he has a statistically negative matchup into the champion who loses hardest into him. So that's pretty bad. Try not to speak while doing my transitions, right? So look, Frozen Domain's already gotten some of its cooldown back on 13.3, right? Here's the initial nerf. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So where is Trundle relative to like his season 12 peak? He's really only lost this subjugate damage. Like, this base attack speed matters so much for jungle clear speed, which, again, I need to emphasize over, the clear speed in our level of play, at lower level amateur, does not matter and does not change pick conditions. However, this also impacts his just raw champion DPS, and so technically this base attack speed change is, it impacts multiple factors of the champion, and so it is power impacting, right? I think Trundle's back. Trundle had like a 0% pick rate pretty much, but actually did manage to climb back up to 50% win rate through the like play of the diehards. So apparently he hasn't been as awful as I thought he was. So now we just need to question, like, does the meta favor him? Trundle historically has not been a champion you just slam in every circumstance, but at the same time, he's good not only into tanks, but also any immobile champion, and he's just, on paper, the ideal bruiser in front-to-back archetypes. So, while you shouldn't technically slam him 24/7 every meta, he's actually also just a perfect tool to have for certain team play styles. So if he would appear to be noticeably stronger, then by all means reintroduce him to your pool. And even though I'm a tank player and don't really like seeing him all the time, I do welcome Trundle being a more viable option again, because he was a staple last season. Okay, Volibear. Yep, I don't like him. He's pretty bad, I think. So what is he getting? He is getting an increase to his physical damage by 1% bonus health. And he is getting an increase to his heal based on missing health. It's like plus 1%, plus 3% at high ranks. It's not really helping him snowball to a ridiculous degree. I'd imagine not. I think we do get to say DPS change to a DPS champion. Especially since it's the health ratio, and the health isn't what you build first. So it's actually supposed to be kind of a scaling increase to a degree. Either way, I don't really expect that to be major for Volibear. And the only systemic change we have is Lichbane, which is gaining 10 AP. And again, usually systemic changes are the greatest driving forces to amateur pool shakeups and playstyle changes. But this is Lichbane receiving 10 AP. Is that going to make it compete with pen options on burst mages? No. Is that going to make it more compelling for DPS champions? No. Like, they've already got Cosmic, which is much better now. They've already got Deathcap, right? Like, Lichbane is only... yes, Lichbane has more theoretical users than who are building it right now. Like, realistically, it's only Echo and, like, only Twisted Fate who are actually opting into this. I think Fizz, too, can be opting into this. And, like, once in a while, Evelyn, but Evelyn's been liking the pen options more, right? Because who else is an option? Seraphine is actually a decent candidate for a Lichbane user. I have a list somewhere. Bard, of course. How could I have forgotten Bard? Where's my standard mage itemization page? Lichbane. So the Lichbane candidates in the game are Echo, Twisted Fate, Victor, Fizz, Akali, Evelyn, Kassadin, Elise, Seraphine, Zoe, Bard, and Ezreal. Most of those candidates do not actually opt into Lichbane. Only Echo, Fizz, and Twisted Fate sometimes, right? And even Echo, not even every game. So, is 10 AP going to make this compete better against raw penetration? My money is on no. But I suppose, like, Seraphine, no, because Cosmic's in the game in current state. Zoe, no. Shadowflame, right? I suppose we can check it out on Evelyn. I suppose we can check it out on Cassidon. Like, but I'm not expecting very much. He's a solid champ for it, and I will agree with you on that. But it is also just definitely funny and off meta. It is worth talking about to a degree, but okay, this is big. This is big. Here is my current emote wheel. I just expanded it. I'm super proud of it, right? Wow. Now I'm so excited to use these. Now I can finally have Giga Cassante, and I can express more emotions. Oh, I don't have Unbridled Rage. I might need to change this emote wheel a little bit. I need to express absolute fury with this wheel. I haven't done that yet. I mean, the Soraka one's fine. Either way, good change. And that's it. So, you know, for such a small patch, there are more power-impacting changes than I expected. Not all of them are applicable to us in, like, Platinum level, Gold level, IBS level, even Diamond level sometimes amateur play. But yeah, Kale is power-impacting. Trundle is, like, actually noteworthy. Amumu is worth watching. Aatrox is worth watching. Nico is a dramatically different champion who is, like, much better in multiple roles. And so, yeah, actually, even though it's a small patch, with ultimately a lot of tiny negligible changes, and although most of the changes in here will increase power levels only a small degree, like, we could actually decide to make some pool adjustments off this patch. Now, a lot of leagues are winding down, and we are approaching, like, playoffs, or we're already deep into playoffs right now. And we do have an absolute monster of a patch coming up. So, even though we do have some changes here, maybe it's not worth your attention or your efforts to actually shift things around too much on this patch. Maybe it's worth waiting for 13-10, seeing how the game settles, and then making our cycle decisions, with a lot more information, right? We can make a more informed decision. So, yeah, so that's how I think the patch is going to play out. That's how I think you should probably approach this patch as an amateur player. And I look forward to seeing you guys on 13-10 when we're going to have a lot of systemic stuff to talk about. And you guys know I love talking about systemic stuff. Okay. Do you guys have anything you want to talk about right now? Do you guys have any things you want? Do you want first opinions on 12-10 or 13-10 stuff? Do you guys have talks about Nico you want to do? Paradox, I got your message earlier. I would like to respond to you, but I just wanted to get through this and get my food and all that, right? Prowler Smoj. Yeah, I'm sorry, Karibo. I'm sorry you've lost your baby. Can I just say that Yumu's is, like, one of the most fucking absurd items I have ever seen, though? Like, god damn! That's up to 38 lethality on one item. People are hard overreacting to Duskblade, I think. League players just see the word untargetability. If volley is not that great, volley's not that great at top level. Volley is super good at low level. So you don't need to replace him. But. Just okay, Gromp Nico, obviously. Anything with Gromp is just like, whew. Yeah, let's actually go through some very quickly. I'm gonna have, like, okay, hang on. I'm not putting my Twitter on stream right away because you never know what'll come up. You don't even have to be following anything that's just sus. Phlox. Wait, it's not Phlox. I need to go to Spider Axe. I forgot. Okay, yeah, big Wardstone changes, which I haven't had any time to process yet. Just very small adjustments across the board to stuff like Trinity, Sterix. I don't know why they think they need to buff Sterix. I promise you it's a player perception thing. Lost Chapter being cheaper is absurd. Like, huh? Lost chapter, 1100 gold? That's really good. What else have we got? Oh, where is it? Where do we go? Is it on VPBE on the LOL wiki? Or? Okay. Karibo's got me. Yeah, there's nothing here. Absolutely nothing. Oh, I'm supposed to click C1310. Ah, okay. Okay, here we are. Here we are. Dude, I want so my team, like we were talking after we got eliminated from semis, and I'm gonna spend the next few months like really expanding my horizons in this game and trying new stuff. Like I'm probably gonna refine my Talon more. I'm probably gonna try Belveth. I'm probably gonna try Hecarim. I'm probably gonna, just work on some of these bruisers. Probably gonna try Trundle too. Just really learn how to play that play style a little more. I want Briar. Give me Briar. I want that champ. They're releasing a vampire jungler for me. I want her now. I like that a lot. I really hope these minion changes don't go through. I'm not going to talk about them too much. It's going to make it real, like, I don't know how much it's going to matter for, like, low level where people aren't roaming properly, but, like, roaming is going to be so much more difficult, and mid laners are going to hate this, and I don't, even though, I was a bot laner for a long time, and then they nerfed TP, and I was thinking, like, well, I was just learning how to play around that. Like, that's kind of frustrating, that you took away that ability for me to, defend myself, and, top laners should have that impact. And I guess it's settled in a position where we're fine with it, but now they're also nerfing the ability for mid laners to come down to mid lane or to bot lane or top lane. And it's like, as a bot lane, I should not be left completely alone. That doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right that they keep making it easier on us down here. I don't know. It's weird. Callista getting an AP ratio is super funny. The slow scaling with AP is super funny. Kindred having AP ratio is very funny. Akshan having AP ratio is actually kind of a big deal, right? Vayne having... Okay, that's scary. But yeah, let's just go through it quickly. Abyssal Mask actually looks really good now for 2,400 gold. I mean, it was good before. It was good with Catalyst. I loved it with Catalyst. It's losing Catalyst, and that sucks. But for 2,400 gold, you can get basically 70 MR always. That's honestly not bad. Like, that's just a really cheap stat stick, right? So neat. Sensor going down to 2,100 gold. Blade of the Rune King combined cost increased. Total cost. Okay, so it's just the thing here. Bloodthirster no longer having a shield is very interesting. It's just a lifesteal stat stick that when you're healthy makes you deal more damage. Draven would probably like that, but I'm not going to be able to assess the impact of this without thinking about it a little deeper. Putrefier cheaper and losing some of its stats. Okay, I still don't care. This item still sucks, right? Divine Sunderer, it's just a small change. Okay, Duskblade of Drakthar. So the abilities now deal up to 15% bonus damage. So that's actually quite good for poke champions. That's real. So now, like, Varus, Jace, champions like that, they don't have to go Prowlers for no reason. That's compelling when your range is high. And now you can go untargetable rather than being stealthed, right? I mean, Duskblade will actually have a genuine niche, I believe. Like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty good. It's a more defensive item than Yumu's, which is nuts. Athene's my beloved! Oh, Echoes of Helia! Oh, look at this! And I'm not even playing the role that lets me take advantage of it, and it's so sad. But, like, look at this! It's back! I don't know why it's dealing extra damage per shard to the nearest enemy champion. That's a little bit odd. I'd rather use the damage in my kit to earn healing for my allies. I don't think, like, you would really want or need extra damage. But that's a little reactionary, so I don't really need to be too burned up about it, you know? Force of Nature is actually, I mean, like, not gaining magic damage reduction and instead just gaining 30 bonus. So it's, like, I mean, health going up is good. Magic resistance going down to 60, up to 90. It's arguably just a more, and it takes longer to get to maximum stacks. I think Force of Nature is just a more expensive, worse Abyssal Mask, actually. Like, because you're really only paying for the HP and the bonus MR. I mean, what is the HP on Abyssal now, right? 550. Oh, well, it's not going to be 550 anymore. It's 300. 300 health. So for 600 gold more, do you value the potential of 20 more MR and plus 100 HP? 600 gold more? Yeah, no, I don't think Force of Nature is going to be our default at all. Gale Force looks exactly the same as it always was, but now it locks you out of IE and P, like quick blades and Rage Blade, which is kind of weird. Rage Blade looks nuts. Rage Blade looks absolutely insane. Like, just the fact that right now, right? I mean, it already did have both of these passives. So it was already doing that, and Ginsu's was already quite a good item. But now it also has, you know, a mythic passive, and it's a good mythic passive, too. Like, it really is a good mythic passive. 8% up to 32% bonus attack speed. It didn't grant us that before, so that's absurd, right? Granted, the base attack speed is inferior, but it's now giving us some AP, right? 30 bonus on hits per... Wait, just baseline 30 bonus magic damage on hit. Wait, it has a baseline on hit now. But it's only increased by... Wow! It just has 30 baseline now. You could rush this. This is fucked, guys. This is despicable. This is absolutely... Like, this is just taking Ginsu's... Okay, so in exchange, though, we do have to point out 3,200 gold when previously it was 2,600. And the build path is not perfect by any means, right? The Rage Knife converts crits, but you don't have any crit in its build path. Okay, whew, there's a couple of balancing levers on this, thank goodness. But little scary still, like having baseline on hit, stuff like that. Okay. Again, I'm not going to form any deep opinions. Shield Bow is now not a... I mean, it's so messed up that it's not a mythic anymore, but... it no longer has baseline attack speed, so it's basically just an almost identical stat stick to BT, but with less lifesteal. But BT doesn't have a shield anymore, so this is a greater defensive survivability item, while BT is a more offensive sustain item. Okay, that's fair. Mandate's fucked up. Mandate is so fucked up, guys. Mandate is... Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, like, this not being a mythic is so fucked up. It's so disturbing. They nerfed this damage by what? Like 20? 30 total? I'm excited to see those funny clips. And it now costs 2,300, dude! Like... So, are you ready for, let's see, Helia Mandate Lux? Okay, cool. Are you ready for people building Ludens plus Mandate? Granted, Mandate now must compete with, like, pen items, but on this price point, you know, we're gonna have to figure out how Mandate fits into standard mage itemization, not just supports. This item's fucked. This item's so fucked. The fact that it's not a mythic anymore and doesn't directly compete with Ludens, and, like, you can go Mandate Leandries and stuff, like, it's so fucked. IE is just Infinity Edge, but it's a mythic. Lost Chapter is cheap for some reason. Kraken Slayer now deals magic damage rather than true damage. Although the passive now deals... It has an AP ratio, which is kind of funny. The initial damage is quite a lot lower, and you have to stack it up to what it was before. Because, right, it was 50 plus 40% bonus AD true damage on hits. Now it is 20 with a greater total AD ratio, which matters a lot. So they want you to have this later in the game with an AP ratio that can be doubled. So 120% AD bonus damage eventually. Like, this actually does shred people long term. Knight's Vow cheaper, neat, just small stat adjustments that I'm not going to go into right now. The Giant Slayer now deals magic damage as well, or amps magic damage. Rest in peace, Mikhails. I'm actually so fucking mad that they removed one of the best MRI options in the game, because they wanted to reintroduce Chalice. There's no longer 50 MR on this, but the health is... Oh, but there is health, and there wasn't before. And it... Yeah, so, I mean, sure. And you now gain health. I mean, Harmony's back. Does Helia have dissonance on it? Dissonance is not turning off Harmony anymore. Interesting. Moonstone is reworked, so there are now no support mythics that actually outright grant heal shield power. Also, Mikhail's no A haste, and Redemption no A haste. That's really bad on the most haste-reliant class in the game. It does actually mean that Ardent and Flowing Water are more competitive options against Redemption and Mikhail's. They just weren't at all before. There is now more of an argument for those two, especially now that they cost 2,100, right? Moonstone can now chain. If no other allies are nearby, you can amp the heal even further. I mean, you could just, like, giga amp your existing output, so Soraka and Sona and all of them are still going to take this, even though it's not actual heal shield power. Quick blades are the same, right? Wait, radius reduced? What the hell? Duration reduced? What the hell? Oh my god, this is weird. I'm actually... Okay, I didn't know about this one. Phantom Dancer, we're gonna have to compare against Shiv. I'll do that in the moment. I don't care to do it now. Prowler's Claw is now a legendary. What does it do? It's an active, dealing damage within 3... Wait, active? It's a passive, right? Dealing damage within 3 seconds of using a dash, blink, or exiting from stealth causes your next basic attack to deal a chunk of bonus physical damage. If dealt by a melee champion, this... Okay, I mean, like, on lethality... Like, on this lethality, I mean, Prowlers will still be a good legendary. Prowlers will probably end up... I mean, because what's it competing with still? It's competing with Edge. Assassin itemization as a whole is pretty poor. It's no longer competing with Yumus. It's competing with Axiom. So we now have to have a Prowlers versus Axiom debate, which is different than what it was before. Competing with Cyrildas. I'm sure this can find a place on actual assassins. Like, the stats are not bad. But we'll have to look into it more carefully. Oh, yeah, she is. But hopefully that means Rek'Sai gets buffed, right? Renekton's sad with it, too. I don't know what they're thinking, just making Radiant Virtue insane again, but so be it. I'm actually quite happy that it's really good again. Supports can actually buy this again. We'll probably refine our opinions. Rapid Fire, what happens now? Oh, it has AD on it now. That's right, which is huge. Actually huge. Redemption, we talked about. I mean, I'm upset that it has no MR. It has Harmony on it now. It's a Chalice item? Oh. Huh. Neat. Runons now deals magic damage. Wait, Runons just has on hits? What the Runons just has an on hit on it. Is more expensive, like slightly. Is a pure... Wow, that's not bad at all. Shirelia's cheaper. Cool. Motivate nerfed a little bit. Cool. Static Shiv is back. It does have AD, so it's more. It competes more against Rapid Fire. Energizer effects can bounce to a lot of targets, which is kind of cool. So yeah, Zeal items are changing a lot. Huh. Storm Razor is now a Noon Quiver item, which is kind of cool. It's now more expensive by 300. It's still got garbage attack speed. It's now dealing 20... When you're energized, it now deals a chunk of damage, which is, at least early, likely to be lower than it already was, but it's higher now. It no longer slows, it instead grants movement speed. This might still have its users. I still predict it'll end up being niche. The AD is up by... Yeah, it'll probably still be very niche, right? Collector Lethality 18 actually makes it more compelling. Wardstone very reworked. Yumu's... Yeah, this is gross. This is gross. This is really, really gross. Just... in the first 4 seconds of combat, you can have 38 lethality. At level 18, of course. But even at level 1, it's 28 lethality on one item. While it still has its Wraith Staff, right? It is kind of a DMP, right? Like, but it means your out of combat move speed actually works in combat for a short period. This is way better than DMP. This item's gross. This item's absolutely gross. And then that's pretty cool. Unleash teleport reduced. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So, I mean, we'll have to rework Marksman itemization pretty heavily. We'll have to rework Enchanter itemization pretty heavily. Assassin itemization will be changed, and like there's a lot of little things here. It's just the things that I'm afraid of most are Yumu's, Helia, Mandates, Baron Dogs, Radiant Virtue. Like, man, I cannot emphasize how fucked up this Mandate is, guys. This is so broken. Not being a mythic and doing that, like, on that, like, guys, it's so good. Okay, the AP's higher! They bumped the AP! They increased the AP! It's higher! Oh no! Yeah, the damage is down 30 at early levels and unchanged late. Unchanged late! Unchanged late! Ah! Mandate is so good! Okay, worth noting, one of the big predictions that I'm going to end up having is that there's going to be a rise in Sorkshoe 80 carries with the current on-hit system. But that's all I really want to talk about, like, right now. I just cursory glance at this, and then we can formally assess it next patch. Akshan in particular. Like, Akshan already does Sorkshoes sometimes. If he's on specifically, like, Gale Force, Stormrazor, RFC builds, like the full pick. He already goes Sorks in those instances, because he's got magic damage baked into his kit as well. So we're just going to learn from Akshan there, and start building Sorkshoes. Okay, anything else, guys? I need to go cook myself a hot dog. I'm starving. But I'm happy to talk again for another moment. Don't think there's anything major, though. Going once. Going twice. Sold to me. All right. Thank you for being here, guys. Don't forget to love yourselves, respect each other. I will see you all next time. Take care. Bye-bye.